Okay, so we are gonna make today macarons. So before you start off making your macarons, you make sure everything is sanitized. So your workspace is sanitized, you have a robe on to protect yourself from messes, and most importantly, wash your hands. So when your hands are nice and clean, then you can start off with powdered sugar, a cup of powdered sugar, and one bowl, and almond flour, a cup and a cup and a half powdered sugar. And we're just gonna put that in a bowl and we're gonna sift it together to get rid of any big clumps. So when you're making your macarons, when you pipe it out, they're nice and smooth and not lumpy, because that's not really tasty or appetizing to look at. So since I don't have a sifter today, we're using a whisk, and you're just going to stir it and mix it until it is combined and lump free. Another way you could also sift this is, if you don't have a sifter, you can use one of these mesh strainer things. I use this a lot to sift since I don't have a sifter. But also another way you can do this, especially with almond flour, is you can use a food processor and just put it in there and blend it for a little bit, and it sifts it really nice and fine. I just don't feel like getting out my food processor right now. It's kind of tucked away in the back. But if you do it with a mesh strainer like this, it does get out a lot of the clumps. It just takes a little longer, but it does have a good result at the end. Okay, so once this is all sifted, which it is right now, we are going to move on to the egg whites. So we are going to put 3 egg whites in here, and we're going to whisk it. And make sure you don't get the yolk in there or any shells, because that's not going to be tasty to eat. And okay, then you just do that with 2 more eggs. Okay, so once we have 3 egg whites in here, we are going to whisk them, and we're only going to whisk them for a little bit until they're foamy. Yeah, once they are foamed, so then we can add the tartar and sugar later. But for right now, we're just going to whisk them a little bit. And I'm lucky enough to have a mixer, a stand one and a hand one, but you can also just use a regular whisk, which is tiring, but it will work. And it's gonna be really loud. Okay, so our egg whites have now foamed. That's what they look like. Very foamy still, but there's no actual peaks yet or anything. So we can add in the tartar first. And then we have half a cup of sugar ready to pour in slowly while we mix it. So first we can add the tartar. And then turn it on and add the sugar slowly. You just want to make sure that everything gets mixed, so if there's anything on the sides, just take a little spatula and put it in there so we can make sure everything is getting mixed in properly. And then we can just start it again. Before we finish mixing, this is the fun part. Okay, so we get to add the flavoring, which is vanilla. We have 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Just a bit more. And put that in. And then we get to add food coloring, but I'm gonna mix this first. Okay, so for this one, I was thinking I wanted to do like an orange color because it's fall right now, and I think that'd be really cute. Maybe they could look like little pumpkins after. So we have red and yellow to make orange. They don't have green, and these are liquid, so it's gonna take a little longer to color because they're not gel and it's not as vibrant when it's mixed. So we're gonna add 3 drops of red. Let's say, we'll start with 2. We can always add more, we can't take less. And we're gonna do 2 drops of orange and see how that goes. Okay, so this is really light right now and it will get lighter as we go on. So I'm gonna definitely add a lot more, but there's also things on the side that needs to get mixed in. But I'm going to add more yellow than red this time because it looks more pink than I want it to. So this is why we always start off with less, so we can always experiment, but still not have a lot more room to mess up in case something goes wrong. So more yellow. I'll do 3 drops and then 2 drops of red. 1, 2. Okay. So we have whisked these and they're stiff peaks. Also, this is probably gonna turn out more pink than orange, but that's okay. As long as they're pretty at the end, I don't really care what color they are. So we are done with that. So we're gonna move on to the dry ingredient. Okay, so we are bringing back the dry ingredients. I'm just gonna give them one more stir so make sure that no extra clumps are in there. And then, let's see, that should be good. So then we are gonna take the egg whites we have just whisked, so they're nice and stiff peaks, and we're going to fold part of this into here 3 times, so 1/3 each time. Just make sure that they are nice and incorporated. So make sure you have a spatula so it's easier to fold. I'm just gonna take these, put them in there, and then this has a nice little spout so we can measure out 1/3 of this mixture in. There is a clump there that I don't want. Let's break that down really fast. Put in 1/3 to the egg whites. Okay, so we have 1/3 and we're just going to fold it in. Now this is the really important part. We don't want to overmix because the last time I tried to make macarons, I did overmix and then it was just a complete mess. It was completely runny. I put it into the piping bag and then it was just going everywhere, went right through the tip, and it was just no saving that mess. So we don't want to over mix this one. I really hope we don't do that this time. Okay, so then we're gonna add the second third. And then I'm gonna add the last third in, and then we're going to fold it all together and make sure not to overmix. And when you know it is about ready to be done is when you can, it's pretty thick but also pretty runny at the same time. You can draw an 8 with it, a figure 8 with the spatula, and I think that's where I messed up last time because I was really focused on it looking like a figure 8, but I think I wanted it too runny, but that's actually not what you wanted. You want it more thick. So we're folding it in. Okay, so we have now folded this and it's not over folded, so don't worry. But now we have a piping bag tipped with just a regular circle tip. So then we're put it in the piping bag as messy free as possible, but the batter in the bag. So I'm just getting all the air bubbles out, and we have a tray lined with parchment paper. Jeez, I can't think of the word. So there are still air bubbles in here, so I'm just gonna squeeze them out really fast, and then you're just going to pipe. Okay, so now we have them on the tray, so we're gonna tap it a couple times to get rid of any air bubbles that might be in there. So now we're gonna let this sit for 40 minutes, which is a long time because I just want to put them in the oven and then have them ready to eat. But we're gonna let them rest for 40 minutes and then we can put them in.
An eternity later.
Okay, so now they have rested for about 40 minutes, and so they have formed a nice little skin on top, and so they're not sticky. So now the oven is preheated to 300 and we can put them in for 12 to 15 minutes, and then we can go on to making the buttercream to assemble them. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the buttercream. So we are going to heat 3 tablespoons of water and half a cup of sugar until the sugar is dissolved. Make sure it's on low heat so I don't accidentally burn it or anything. And we're just gonna stir it until it's dissolved. So while we let this finish boiling, because now it's dissolved, we are going to whisk 5 egg yolks into a separate bowl, only until foamy, because then we're going to add the sugar once it's boiled into it. Okay, so we have the egg yolks nice and foamy, and the syrup is boiling. So we're gonna pour it in to the egg yolks very carefully while whisking the egg yolks. And also, the cookies have just been taken out of the oven, about 12 minutes, and they're looking very nice, and we're just let them cool off completely while we also finish the buttercream. Now this is cool to the touch. You want to make sure, since this was boiling, it helped cook the egg, and it's cool to the touch now that we have 1 cup of butter and it's cut in cubes. So we're just going to put a couple pieces in at a time and mix it in, and then we're just going to keep doing that to the... Okay, so we have the butter added and it's starting to get thick, but before we finish whisking it to become thick, we're gonna add a pinch of salt and a teaspoon of vanilla. And then we can finish whisking it until it becomes thick and creamy. And this is gonna be the workout of the week, probably. That was really tiring, but it is now creamy and thick, and we have the buttercream. So now I can put it into another piping bag and we're ready to assemble. Put some of the buttercream into another piping bag, and I'm just gonna get all the bubbles out, and then we can decorate one of the macarons. Okay, so let's take this one. I'm just gonna put it in the middle because it will spread out when we put the other one on top. And then we push it down. I could have added a little bit more icing to that one, but there we go. And I know you should leave it out a little bit, like a day or two, or at least a day, but I've worked all day on this, so I want to take at least 1 bite. One of the most important things when you're done cooking or baking is you have to clean up the dishes.